Hi everyone, here's what's bothering me today. Let's talk a little bit more about the climate catastrophe, shall we? So recently in Canada, it made the news that a Liberal cabinet minister by the name of McKenna is retiring from politics. She is now in her, I think, second term. And she was, in her first term, the Minister for the Environment, which we'll get to in a second. And then in her second term, she served as the Minister for Infrastructure and Development. And in citing her leaving politics, she mentioned two things. She wanted to, spend more time with her family and be involved with her kids and raising them into adults. And she also said, quite tellingly, that she wanted to get back into the climate change fight. What does it say about a Liberal cabinet minister who was formerly the Minister for the Environment feeling she can do more good outside of the party than within it? That should be something that is clear as day to any voter that the Liberals do not care about climate change. They've bought pipelines, for God's sake, and have advocated for others that have been killed, such as Keystone XL. And the government keeps missing target after target and has even said, I'm pretty sure at some point, you know what, yeah, we're just not even going to hit our targets. It doesn't matter. We'll just bear that quietly on the Friday news. And that's what they do. The Liberals often bury important news and developments on a Friday because they know that it's not going to be picked up. And if it is picked up by Monday, people kind of don't care. They've had their weekends off at the cottage. There's, a sporting event, or they're just trying to relax and, not have to listen to all the terrible things that we have to hear day after day. And oh my God, that's my channel. So, that's the situation that we're in here north of the border. But let's also talk about something that's in the news right now that's affecting a great section of the entire continent. The heat dome that is sitting over the Pacific Northwest and over the interior of British Columbia that is buckling roads and breaking power lines, and it's just the start of the fire season. It was the hottest day in recorded Canadian history. And yet we still have to deal with governments, be they provincial or federal, who say, well, yes, we believe in climate change and we want to stop it. So we're going to set these targets and, you better believe, boy, howdy, we're going to change things. And they aren't doing what needs to be done. This heat dome that's once in a millennia, want to bet this shows up again in like a few years, maybe a decade if we're really lucky. And this once in a millennia thing becomes a, once a year or every other year kind of affair. Infrastructure is failing. Not enough funding is being directed to land management and to firefighting. We aren't actually forcing polluters to pay in order to actually foster the necessary changes that we need to implement in order to save and protect people's lives, because pollution is also adversely affecting human health. So that affects birth rates, health rates, gives people various diseases or lung problems, heart problems, which leads to needing palliative care earlier on in your life because you've just been exposed to so much of it early on. So healthcare costs rise. And yet governments aren't taxing the appropriate people. We're not taxing the wealthy and closing the tax loopholes. We're not taxing the 100 corporations that are responsible for 71% of emissions. We are not even exploring various other options that would help the rest of the world get over the, transition towards a greener, sustainable future, because everyone's too nervous about nuclear technology, even though all things considered, that's a pretty great compromise, considering the drastic amount of action that needs to happen. The time for incrementalism was in the early 2000s. Trying to do incrementalism now is like trying to bail out a boat with a shot glass. And yet there are still people out there who believe that incrementalism is the way forward, or that by trusting the current parties in power, they said they were going to do this. They said they're going to plant 1 billion trees, and, there's this carbon tax, and we're getting more green vehicles. So, if we just kind of do that, it should be fine, right? A lot of people don't understand the logistics that go into everything behind the scenes. the logistics of how the military operates. The United States military alone produces something ridiculous like 10% of global emissions. And no, I don't have sources on that. I just know it's a big ass number. The amount of trucks that have to run every day and overnight to get all this convenient stuff to us. Avocados in the middle of winter. How do you think that happens? What do you think the carbon price of that organic avocado actually is? Hey, you need something to get to the opposite corner of the world, or to get from the opposite corner of the world over to your corner of the world. That usually takes, especially for doing it priority overnight, that involves at least one, if not two flights of a cargo jetliner that produces a shit ton of emissions. Yeah, granted, look, lots of places like China, India, various corners of the European Union, Quebec, parts of America are trying to implement in their own way, trying to foster changes towards, no gas vehicles allowed past, 2035 or 2040. That's only for personal use. That is not for all the delivery drivers, trucks, logistics. We don't really have electric trains to get all this freight back and forth. The point is that there is so much that goes on behind the scenes that uses so much energy. Non-renewable energy, fossil fuels. It uses so much of it, and all for the sake of our convenience in the West. If you want to actually change what's going to happen, because this heat dome, all these, melting, buckling roads and cables and birds falling out of the sky because it's too hot, and apocalyptic wildfire seasons that last longer and longer, and droughts that get worse year after year after year, and lower water levels, more acidic oceans, less fish. All this continues if we continue to think that incrementalism is the way forward, so long as we don't have to lose our precious God-given convenience. We will look back on this heat dome and this summer as the good old days in, 5 to 10 years if we don't take meaningful, drastic, radical action now. And the fact that more people aren't aware of this, and that the media isn't talking about this, when really we all share the same planet, and it's in all our best and shared interests to see each other survive and thrive on it, is definitely what's bothering me today.